5.
Coming up in this video, end of the dark night of the soul. Is it really over?
Is it really over? If you are new, consider subscribing.
Click that bell and you'll be good to go.
Will be good to go. So before we get into the good stuff, are we having technical difficulties? Are we good?
We might.
Oh,
hey,
one
newbie.
moment. We're
Never stop praying. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
We're having some technical issues. So please.
We're going live on
Bear
2
with us.
platforms right now. So we're just trying to get the other folks online. Here we go. I believe we're going live over here on our Facebook.
Back it up. Let's do this one more time.
We're going to
Back
do
it
this
up. That.
more time.
One more time.
We're backing up. Okay.
So, what is up? Never stop praying. Welcome, Isabel. Welcome.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. We're waiting
We're waiting
for
for
one
Facebook
moment,
to go live.
2 moments.
So YouTube folks, hang on.
You don't use the FB word.
Don't use a bad word here.
Don't use the
All
FB
right.
word here.
We are
All right.
live.
So, coming up in this video, end of the dark night of the soul. Is it really over?
Once again, guys, if you are new, consider subscribing to our little channel.
And click that bell. You'll be good to go.
Thank goodness we have gone live on both channels and we are good to go. But before we get into the good stuff,
It seems that we're entering an age of purpose. There's a trend with more and more the purple people searching for purpose, purposeful work, purposeful relationships, etc. Matter of fact, there was a study done showing that there are 50% more people searching for purpose in life over the last 4 years than ever before. And that's very important because to get to your purpose, you have to go through a dark night of the soul. And that's what we're covering today.
so as you come on, we had trouble on a couple platforms today. Let us know if you can hear us and see us. And also, as you come on,
Let us know where you're from.
Yeah.
And most importantly, what your favorite food is.
because we like food, and you will get bonus points
For the most
in theory.
interesting food choice.
Okay.
So let us know in the comments what your favorite food is.
Awesome, guys. Okay, so I want you guys, if you can, stay with us for the whole video, and we're going to help you understand what happens at the end of the dark night of the soul.
And while it's going to be entertaining, as it already has been so far, the real reason you should stick around is because of the mind-blowing tips that we're going to be sharing to take your life from basic to badass in 90 seconds, but only if it fits for you.
For those of you that do not know us yet, I'm Heather
And I'm David
from Zenrose Garden.
.com, helping people create
Badass lives.
Since 2008, we've helped thousands of clients go from being overwhelmed, stressed out, and insecure to being confident, purposeful, and empowered. And if you've just found us, congratulations. Stick with us and watch as your insecurities and fears run screaming for the hills, never to bother you again.
I love some of these food choices coming in. Favorite food, toast or bread. I think that's
Lobster Mornay.
Ooh.
And that's from Maz in Australia, from Sydney. Awesome.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds amazing.
Tina says, I want to get your classes. Stay tuned. We're
Yes.
going to have something special for that at the end, Tina. And Blazing Turtle, hello from Chicago. Favorite food? Bibimbap extra spicy. I don't know what that is, but that's definitely an interesting food choice. I think Blazing Turtle might have just won
Maybe
the bonus
weird,
points on that.
Weird food for the win. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. So through our work with over 2,000 clients all over the world since 2008, we noticed a huge gap. And this is probably why you are here in what was being taught by a lot of the influencers in our niche that seemed to be doing the same thing everybody else was doing. And if you found us, that might be why you found us.
And we're not trying to be the next cookie cutter gurus.
Not gonna do it. That's my George Bush impersonation. So
Wow.
what we noticed was that, come on, that was just like George Bush. What we noticed was that some people taught all those cool intuitive techniques without the foundation of self-growth to stabilize it. And that happens. You go a little cuckoo sometimes.
You can go a little cuckoo.
Just stop.
That was my impression. Others taught self-growth without having a clue of what to do when people started opening up their intuitive skills.
So both groups have a ceiling that lacks integration, and we strive to fill that gap because that's what we like to do with the big spiritual
stay in the gap.
glue
No. And if you stay to the end, we're going to show you why that's important for you.
So if you guys have questions as we go, today's, this is the 4th episode of Dark Night of the Soul, and it's going to go deep. We got a lot to cover, but if you have any questions as we go, please drop them in the comments.
We're going to have a short Q&A at the end, and if we don't get to your questions live, we will answer any questions on the replay. Speaking of live, if you happen to be watching live, give us a hashtag live tribe.
If you're watching the replay, as always, give us a hashtag replay fam.
Now it's time for the good stuff.
Over to good stuff. So the end of the Dark Night of the Soul, is it really over?
Finally, you're seeing the clouds part and the sun shining once again, your heart exhausted and yearning for a vacation from the constant torment.
Oh boy, sounds like you had a rough time. So we're going to break down the end of the world as we know it.
Wait, isn't that a song?
It is a song, REM.
Actually, I think we're talking about a whole new world here.
No, that's Aladdin. Okay.
You're welcome. Now they're both stuck in your head. So, REM versus Aladdin. Who wins? Who's next? You decide. Drop it in the comments. There will be a quiz at the end.
Wow.
Or not.
Wow. Okay. 80s kid here. Okay. 80s kid, REM, whole new world, raising my kids with Aladdin, the first one. So I can't compete.
Yep.
So here we go, guys. We're going to get into what is illumination. So you've gone through the awakening process, which is like something else is out there. The dark night, which is those first 2 purges we talked about.
And if you missed those, go check out those videos.
Yes, it's the purge of the senses, the purge of the spirit. And now you're ready to come into that second stage of the dark night of the soul, which is illumination. So
So illumination is the point at which we realize that we're not alone, even though we felt desolate and alone during that purge phase, those first 2 purge phases of the dark night.
So finally here, we're getting into the mystical development stages, the stages of mystical development that are more joyful, fun, right? We like to go to this good stuff. A lot of people try to go to the good stuff before they go through the dark night icky part, and it tends to produce sort of a fake spirituality.
Right.
You've seen that happen out in the world of spirituality. Right? Okay.
And we prefer mystical as opposed to religious because we believe that all people are capable of mystical development, whether they are religious, atheists, or theists.
So the mystical development of the person can apply to everyone. It's not exclusive to one group of people on the planet. So before illumination, you've experienced continued growth and spiritual progress. Much of it has been painful and discouraging. I know some of you are going through the dark night of the soul right now who are watching. But now you're starting to feel support in a more mature way. And let me explain that a little bit. You're receiving support in a more mature way because before the dark night of the soul, it was you're relying on something external in a supportive way as a child. Now you're coming out of the dark night of the soul. You've kind of gotten a few bumps and bruises along the way, and you realize you're stronger than you thought because you survived this really nasty dark night of the soul. And now you're reconnecting with that light outside of you, whatever that is for you. And you're realizing now I need to develop a more mature relationship with that higher power outside of me. You're coming to it as more of a mature adult instead of a child like, I'm protected.
Do this for me.
Right.
So this is a period of assimilation where we start to assimilate all of these things that have been taught to us and all of the support that has been given to us. We start to assimilate it and we start to make it our own, as well as that moment of contemplation around how you see yourself moving forward. This is where you start to become more self-actualized and start to get more of yourself into the journey that you're going on.
So we're kind of now aware in the illumination period that life can mean something incredible for us, but we are now responsible because remember, coming to a more mature spirituality,
Yep.
We're more responsible for what we make of it. So it's time to make what we've learned in those purges, make it our own, and find ways to express what we want to express out into the world. Not a copycat, we talked about in the beginning,
Right.
Not trying to be a copycat.
Not the cookie cutter gurus.
That's not your authentic space. What can you take that you have learned and make something new and present it in a beautiful way to the world that's unique to you? That's what you're thinking about in the illumination phase.
Right. And we're going to talk about 3 different angles to this to hit kind of the broad spectrum.
Right.
So in the religious sense, we are illuminated by the light of God's love and see a clear path through our own existence.
So in the religious standpoint of the dark night of the soul, you have felt separated from God's love.
Right.
And then you come back to, it's there, but I see it differently now. I don't see it as a child. I see it as a more mature spiritual person.
A partnership instead of the codependent relationship that may have been there as that child, as you're starting to develop into your own. Then you go through the dark night, you kind of lose touch with that love of God or that light of God. And then you come back more mature with that light of God and reconnect in a more mature way.
So in the mystical sense, we are connecting with the absolute energy that governs our soul journey. So in a purely mystical sense,
the universe,
it could be the universe, it could be the greater field of energy that connects us all. It could be some, whatever that energy is in a mystical sense, the unknowable. But it is something that's tangible, conscious, sentient, connects us all.
Yes. So again, you lose touch with that. You feel like you're alone in that dark night element. And then you come back to it more mature and you start to partner with the universe, the universal field, whatever you want to call it. Now we get into the purely existential sense where we prepare to self-actualize and we see our unique existence like one snowflake that is and will never be here in quite the same way again. And we're on fire with this drive to create that new synergy between ourselves and the physical world.
So that is what illumination is.
And this girl is on fire.
Oh boy, he's just dropping some songs. Okay, what illuminate? That was on my playlist. I kept repeating the other day. It's like, thank you for bringing it back. So what illumination is not, it is not the awakening. So often people confuse the awakening with illumination. They're 2 different things.
Right.
And it's not simply enlightenment where you have these moments of enlightenment. It is not an experience, a single experience or a vision of the light or a quick glimpse of mystical reality or that aha moment that sparks you off.
The awakening is generally the thing that sparks the whole journey. This is what Joseph Campbell referred to as the call to the hero's journey.
So illumination is more the stage of mystical and spiritual development that follows that purification process. So with illumination, you're kind of stabilizing the process you just went through.
Right. So illumination is this mystical consciousness.
It is a mystical consciousness, basically.
Yes. And it is that consciousness itself and the anchoring of that consciousness into your psyche, into your soul, into your mind, into your existence.
So where enlightenment and the awakening are sort of those moments you perceive where you have the connection, you see the mystical reality. Illumination is where you integrate it into your psyche. So see how they're kind of 2 separate things. We kind of confuse those 3 terms, I think, in the spiritual community, but illumination is the actual, you're kind of, think of it as like you're lighting that light bulb inside of yourself and now it's going to glow out into the world. Whereas enlightenment and the awakening are things you kind of perceive that light outside.
They're like temporary glimpses.
Right.
Here is where the self starts to emerge from that long and complex, those acts of purification to find that it is able to comprehend another order of reality.
And like I said, enlightenment and awakening, you're perceiving, you have those aha moments of enlightenment. You have all those things where you perceive mystical reality, but they don't necessarily ground and stabilize within your psyche to become a way of life. This is where it happens, illumination. So again, it's different from the awakening where you get a glimpse of another reality and make the choice to either get out of bed or hit the snooze button and go back to sleep.
And that's the key component is you've got that choice now. You've heard the call. You're either going to shut it down for a little while, go back to bed and, stay in your unawake state, in your non-woke state.
You can be woke, but you can still be laying in bed, like we're saying. So you can be woke, but you're not actually doing something about it.
You're not actually engaging in your wokeness.
Right.
So now you have the consciousness to see mystical reality that was always there in plain sight. This is the journey of illumination, and it has 3 experiential parts, and we're going to break those down in a minute.
This is what I'm excited about. So I want to check in with you, real guys with your real guys.
So we've got a course on spiritual awakening that can help you get to your illumination in Zen and Academy, and we'll get to that at the end. But we want to know how we're doing so far. Is everything making sense? Can you guys still hear us and see us?
Yeah,
let us know.
Let us know. I'm loving some of these comments you guys are dropping already. I can't
Gothic
wait to get
Dragon
to them.
Warrior Queen, definitely we see you. Tina, you guys are absolutely rocking. Keep those comments coming. Keep everything coming. But we want to know if you can hear us and see us. And before we continue, because we've had some technical difficulties today, we want to make sure that we can see.
So we're gonna share this with our Facebook crew later because they just didn't want to go live. So here we are. You are exclusive at YouTube.
Okay, good. Still see and hear.
Fabulous.
All right, so let's keep going. We got a lot to cover.
So always, I hope this makes sense to you because we're dropping a whole bunch of complex things today.
And if you need to go watch the replay, please do that too, because there's more. Thank you, Flossie. Thank you, Joan.
I love you guys so much.
Oh no, might be me, the lazy woke.
Okay,
Joan, we've always had that. We've all had that moment of the lazy woke where we just snooze the button. It doesn't matter when you get on that train. When you get on that train is right for you. Okay, so the 3 experiences of the illumination process. We're going to break down the three unique things that you can experience in the illumination. Right. And I raise your hand 1, 2, and 3 as we go through these if you've experienced these at all. I know you have. So the 3 experiences appear in this illumination stage of mystical development. The first one is joyful awareness of the absolute. Okay. And then the second one, we'll explain what these are. Right. Joyful engagement of the physical senses. And the third and most important one, where you wrap it all up in a pretty bow, is the joyful relationship building and creating of your personal hierarchy of values. Okay? So we're gonna break down number 1 here. The joyful awareness of the absolute. Okay, so this is a joyful awareness of the absolute. Okay, so the absolute I'm referring to is sort of a term that means the everything, the all that is, God, universe, source. The I am that I am. Whatever that means to you, because it's by many, many, many names, but we have to decide for ourselves, what is that overarching energy that connects you to something greater and more trustworthy, enlightened, incorruptible. So the joyful awareness of the absolute, or the awareness of the presence of God, some energy that is greater than you. This can also be an awareness of your higher self or your superconscious self. Right. Okay. And this awareness is not so much met with fear, as you have eliminated the majority of your fear in the actual dark night. But this is where we get to okay, here we go. And kind of an awe of sorts. You're kind of in awe of this huge existence and your participation in that existence. You're kind of realizing that you are part of this and that you can start to participate it in a more direct way instead of just before the dark night of the soul. You're participating it in a childlike way. Now, I think it's really important that we remain childlike and teachable, as my dad used to say, remain teachable, which is continue with that humble, childlike approach through your life and the willingness to play. Right. But there's a difference between point A before the dark night and point B after. So you're realizing you can actually be a participant and communicate. This wonderful, amazing universe. So it's more of an exciting dive into mystical orientation, like your first day of college, except it's like your first day at Hogwarts and your education, right? So it's pretty awesome. Right. So in Zen Academy, we have a course that connects your higher self and higher purpose, and we're going to have more on that at the end. But we want to know from you guys, is this helpful so far? How many aha moments have you already racked up? Let us know in the comments if this is helpful and how many aha moments you've racked up. We don't necessarily need to know who they are or what they are unless you want to share. We would absolutely love when people share, but let us know how many.
So experience number 2, moving on, is the joyful engagement of the physical senses. Okay, this is an important part of the illumination phase.
Yep.
What it is your physical perceptions of the world are enhanced. Okay, with this unusual clarity and luminosity. Everything is brighter, glowing. You see new colors. And this is what the Buddhists sometimes refer to as direct perception. What they mean by direct perception of reality is you're directly perceiving the beauty of the world for what it is, not through the filters of your fear and your trepidation and the world's a shitty place and there's so many evil people. You're not perceiving it through those paranoias. You're perceiving it directly for the beauty that it is.
So this is a clarity of vision or a sharpening of the senses, along with an increased mental lucidity. So you just become lucid. You become more aware that you are a partner and creator of your life. Just like lucid dreaming is being aware that you're dreaming and that you can control that dream, that you are the driver of the dream. Same thing with your life. You're the driver.
So there's a radiance and a beauty in physical reality that was never before enjoyed in the same way. Like you're finally starting to surrender to, wow, it's radiant, it's beautiful. You no longer focus on the world as an ugly, scary place, but you see the beauty in it.
Yep. And there is the awareness that you're no longer focusing on the world as something ugly, some ugly, dark, scary place, but you see the beauty. You start to see the beauty in everything. Even some of the most mundane things become beautiful to you because you faced a lot of your fears along the way.
So you know that the bad stuff is still there. You're not like, oh, it's all beautiful, there's nothing bad. You know the bad stuff is still there and you have a healthy awareness of it. I mean, a healthy awareness of it, not it's an evil, terrible, scary place.
Right.
But you are not going to miss out on the physical perks of why you came here, what you really came to experience. You're here to experience it.
What you want, what you really, really want. It is a song day. It is totally a song day.
I didn't even say what you really want, did I?
I know.
Okay.
What you really came here to experience.
What you really came here to experience.
Now everything is flooded with this light and a perception of positivity, and you react with delight and compassion for all living things, even in the middle of crises or chaos.
I think my favorite example of this is the Dalai Lama. You see him and like nothing could ruin his day. I mean, no matter what, if there was a bomb dropped, he'd be like, look how pretty. I guess we're going down now. See you next time. You know what I mean? So, is what it is. So we've got, I love that you were asking about our courses because we're going to drop a bunch of them today. And I know we've got them. So our self-love blueprint in Zen Ed Academy is another one that can help you deepen the connection to those senses, to the world around you, and more on that at the end.
If you want more, let us know in the comments if you've experienced this yet, or if you're excited to, this deepening and quickening of the senses, the clarity of the senses.
Yeah, I remembered when I first experienced something that intense, it was like, oh, I can never see the world in the same way again.
Right. And Flossie says, I've just gone through this. I think I might be going into phase 2, had many signs and started to look more. You guys are my go-to at the moment. So pretty sure this video is a sign also.
Yeah, awesome. And so that actually is part of phase 3, experience number 3.
And we'll get to that in a minute. Gothic says, I love song days. Absolutely. I'm trying, damn it, especially when I'm eating supper. We are creator beings. You guys are awesome. You guys are totally on it. All right. So now let's get into experience number 3.
So this is the joyful relationship building process and creating your personal hierarchy with values. I was thinking about these 2 steps as being separate. I toyed with the idea of making these 2 different parts, but they really are part A and B of the same experience. So let me explain. In this third experience of the illumination phases, you are creating a new relationship with the greater energy. Like we said, the absolute or the higher self is opening to more awareness. You're understanding what it is a little bit better, right?
And this is the courting stage or the dance leading up to union or the divine marriage, the sacred union or the union of self-actualization, depending on how you want to look at it. And we're going to get into that one more later in the next lesson.
Right. So because the fears that once
lesson,
whatever. So because all those fears that once held your intuition down, like under the toilet bowl, I kept it in check. Like you can't use too much of your intuition, can't trust yourself.
Swirlies.
Yeah,
if
that's
anybody
the word
knows swirlies.
I'm looking for. So because those fears that once checked your intuition were faced in those two purges, you face those fears that were blocking you and your self-trust.
Yes.
Your intuition is now enhanced in this big bionic $6 million man way.
We can rebuild him.
And it shows up in 3 different ways.
It does. First are these sensory visions.
And by sensory visions, we mean all the senses.
All of your senses. Yep. And those visions are not necessarily limited to your eyes. This is letting go, allowing for inspiration, imagining, rewiring, dreaming, deciding who you want to become in a back and forth sensory conversation with your superconscious.
So here is where a lot of healing work takes place, and the strengthening of your foundation. And this is kind of a place where David and I kind of work with people like through the dark night of soul, and especially in this phase of the work, because this is where a lot of confusing stuff can start to happen, but also where a lot of the healing happens.
Yep.
So there are many types of visions that you can experience that manifest that are kind of beyond the scope of this class. We'll probably do another one of those later, probably in Zen Ed Academy.
But suffice it to say, a lot of these are what we work with in our one-to-one work with clients.
Right, because there's a lot of things that start to pop up when you're in the phase 1 of the experience number 3. Right. I'm sorry about all the numbers, whether it's complex, you got to break it down somehow, but there's a lot of different types, right? And we're not used to that language. So that's kind of what we do, is kind of help you through the languaging of what you're trying to create with yourself, and also what you're trying to heal within yourself.
And how that relates to you and the world around you, and the bigger world in the super consciousness state.
And this is one of my favorite parts, because this can get you into so many incredible places of your mind that you've never been before, that connect you to all of that stuff. So this is like you're plugging in the wires, right?
It's where you're getting jacked into the matrix.
Right. This is the jacking into the matrix part.
Intentionally. So the first one was a sensory visions, where you have like the visions through all of your senses. The second one is raptures, which is an old school term for that ecstatic feeling of energy rushing through all of your meridians when your body wakes and connects to that energy of everything. It's pretty ecstatic.
And you can experience that in different degrees, like when you're having an energy session, or if you're in like a group of people and there's this intense meditation. So those raptures are those feelings, those rushes of energy through your body, where you're like, wow, all my senses woke up, my internal like psychic senses, the energy system. So that's kind of what that refers to. So, and
if this is making sense to you, if this is really blowing your mind, hit that like button, give us some love, and hit that like button.
Right.
Love
so
and like and love.
The third part of the experience number 3 is, and this is the most important part, and the roadmap that we talked about in the last class, that no one's going to hand you, you just have to create for yourself anew. These are dialogues between your individual consciousness and another divine intelligence. I put quotes on that because what results from this vary greatly from person to person. It may end up being some holy book. This is how the holy books were written, right? Like the Quran, the Bible, the Course in Miracles,
channeling and
all of this.
Divination.
So these are your personal roadmaps that come out. Sometimes they're shared with others, and like a holy book that gets passed around. Sometimes like they're more universal. Sometimes it's just for your personal life roadmap. So that's what we talked about in the last class. So dialogues between your individual consciousness and another divine intelligence, which may be some type of divine president, a divine president, which we're kind of hoping for, a divine presence.
The universe.
That we're not getting political on the station, because everybody's on their own path. The universe, God, or simply your higher self or superconscious.
So keep in mind, though, that the dialogues at this point are still external or a separate conversation. We're not yet ready to internalize them and experience union at this point.
So this is the part where you're like, I got to ground my higher self. I got to connect to my higher self. It's still perceived as an external thing from you. So you're still working out the belief that you're separate. So this is the process, and
yes,
and it's fun, but it can be like, how do I? So this is the dialogue that's happening. So the first dialogue, the visions and the sensory visions, it's more of a subconscious surreal dialogue, where this one is more of a direct dialogue. Like, what are the rules here? What am I going to do? What's going on? This is where you're kind of consciously asking questions to whatever that is.
And this is still the courting phase. You're still negotiating and setting up rules of engagement at this point. This is the process of how does this shit work?
Right. Yeah. So here you are gathering information for your personal hierarchy of values and actually rewriting the script that you have been handed. So yeah, these are the Torah. Yeah, that would be an example of someone's roadmap. That is quite universal for many people.
And Blazing Turtle says, I'm going through a lot of the sensory interactions right now. I can't say that I've experienced any raptures yet. And absolutely, those come and go. They're not necessarily, but trust me, if you've experienced it yet, you will know.
Well, the thing about the rapture, the energy rush, that experience, that overwhelming sensory experience where you're plugged in,
not elicited by the use of drugs.
Well, it's not. It can be. I don't personally do drugs, but I guess it can be. So we're differing here. Yeah, it can be elicited.
Well, we're not talking about. We are not condoning the use of drugs.
No, but it depends on how they're used. That's a whole different topic.
Yeah,
different topic. All
right.
So yes, those raptures again are not necessarily experienced by everyone all the time. Right. There's not like a linear. They're just the three things that happen. Pot's legal here too. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada. Yes. Never stop praying. So let's check in with you guys one more time.
As a part of Zen Academy, we also have our Psychic Senses course that can help you to navigate and strengthen that connection, as well as the connection to your senses and the world around you.
So if you guys are ready to sum this all up, we're going to tie it up in a bow. Hit that like button for us and show us some love, because now we're going to be like needy bitches.
And now. Let's get going. This is where we get to be needy bitches. Give us all the love. Come on. Do it. Hit that like button. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel, because we've got more to blow your mind. Ticker tape advertising.
Like I said that.
I just advertised ourselves, so we're good. Okay.
It just was like, hey.
Yeah.
Let's move on. So the result of this work is your personal hierarchy of values. That's what you are emerging with, your personal manifesto for your life, the way that you want it, not the way someone taught it to you. Okay. And the last lesson I believe we were talking about was you in level 1 integration, as they call it in existentialism, primary integration as in existentialism. Right. That's what it's called, is when you are kind of going along, you're the sheeple, you're obeying the rules of society because that's what you do. And it's tried and true.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily happiness or joy or growing, but it's contentment. A lot of people are finding that. So let's talk about your personal hierarchy. So through the interchanges in those 3 experiences of illumination, you're visioning.
Yep.
You're healing, you're empowering yourself, you're reprogramming yourself in your concept of who you are in relation to everything else in the most authentic and personal way.
This is where you start to put yourself first in a very healthy way. You are making the final move into rejecting the old external value system that didn't work for you anymore, that brought you into this dark night anyway, because it just doesn't work anymore, in favor of your own unique path and internal moral compass.
Right. So this looks like you're finally rejecting that external socialized view of life.
This is a new, authentic hierarchy of values that acts as a benchmark by which all things are now seen and now direct your behavior. They're no longer based on external social constructs.
Right. Remember, we talked a little bit about that in the disintegration of the false personality in, I think it was the last episode. If not, go back and watch the other episodes. There's a lot of stuff in this. It all goes together. It's a set.
Yeah.
So
it is a set of 5.
Right. So these,
catch them all, collect them all.
Just like Pokemon. So these higher. Okay. You done? Microphone. So these higher. He's always blocking the runway. So these higher individual values mark the arrival of your true human personality.
Yep.
Right?
This is where your real self starts to emerge. Here, stronger individual approaches to problem solving and creativity become possible.
Yes. So at this level, each person is developing their own vision of how life ought to be and starts to live it, which brings us right up to the union part of the dark night of the soul in the final lesson, which will be the next lesson.
Yep. All right. So
there. Okay. We got some questions.
Yeah, we got some questions. We're going to get to those in a minute. But first, we have a bonus tip.
We do have our bonus tip. Okay. So with
resist the temptation of Christ. No, resist the temptation to stay there. Okay. I said I wasn't going to do it, and I did it anyway.
Great movie, but different. You got a different life, bud. So he was born on December 25th. So he's probably.
I am the temptation of Christ.
He's like the Antichrist. But so.
That was awesome.
You're going to resist the temptation to stay there. So in all of these phases of the dark night of the soul, we can get stuck in each one, even the good ones, right? Because the union, you can stay in there as long as you want, you're supposed to. But illumination, you got one more step.
Yep.
So mystical scholars throughout time warn of the temptation to kind of bask in the illumination phase and not to continue to union. It's basically like, yeah, this is good enough, getting my energy work on, seeing my shaman every week. I'm
envisioning my life at the EDC,
right?
Seeing pretty colors,
being magical and shit. Magical. You get addicted to the magicalness of yourself.
And here's why. Because you've just gone through pretty much the worst experience of your entire life, the worst trip that you've ever been on. So this illumination phase seems pretty damn good. So this compared to what you just came out of. So you're okay here. It's good.
So this is one of the reasons that so many mystical teachers, like I said, throughout time, this is no new thing, guys. I look at some of the YouTube videos these kids are putting out and they're acting like it's some new shit. It's not new shit. This is like thousands and thousands of years that the human consciousness goes through this
cycles and phases of evolution.
But not like time periods, like your lifetime period, the mystical evolution of you. So it's not like this new thing that's just happened. It's just, but when we're in that experience of it, we think that this is like this new thing. It's not. People have gone through this for centuries. So this is what we draw from, not something that's on the internet. So
this is one of the reasons that many mystical teachers will caution against too much attention or obsession on your newfound intuitive abilities, and why we teach our own twofold path of self-growth and intuitive development.
And this is nothing new either, guys. We kick it old school because, like I said, the people of today are like they either teach the self-growth or they teach the intuitive development, but they go together like a system. And this is the old school way that it has always been taught. You go to the shaman and they of the old school tradition, not just the ones that hang out in healing centers now. That not that they're great too, but we've kind of divided the path of development into two phases in our modern world, and it can be detrimental if you don't know that they're supposed to go together.
Right.
So across the board, as we bask in that knowing that we can love and we are loved by that supportive absolute energy. We may become, as some mystic scholars say, God intoxicated.
Ooh,
okay,
that's a good one.
You like that term, God intoxicated? It's a real term.
Here we become eager to do the work out in the world of whatever we perceive the absolute to be, that huge God source, but may become obsessed to the point where that union never occurs. So you've got this absolute outside of you, and you are doing the will of the absolute, but you haven't integrated to partner to become your own absolute.
So the illumination and the union is going to look different on the other side of illumination, depending on your spiritual system. So it's not that you're operating outside of it, it's that you're integrating it and you're truly at one with it.
Right.
So you're not there yet. You're still in illumination. So now if you kind of get stuck in illumination and you never move on to union, you're still living in subservience, which is where you were at the beginning of the dark night of the soul, where you're kind of more the childlike approach to the greater source.
But you're still just a little bit more woke, but still subservient.
So you're still living in subservience. Like now you're like, I got to do this. I got to do this. My duty. It's my duty to this external concept of the absolute, be that God, the universe, the Pleiadians, the whatever it is, instead of service to the whole. You're not really thinking for the community as a whole. You're thinking of, I have to do what the absolute wants me to do.
And it's still segregation.
So
you haven't reached unity yet. You haven't reached a unity consciousness or union yet, instead of service to the whole that we are at one with, because you're not yet in that stage of union.
Right. So this is a tricky spot, and I see a lot of people getting trapped in it. So it's a place where you're kind of isolating. You're in contemplation. You're deciding what that life looks like. What are the rules for you that work in relation to how you sense the bigger universe? Tina says, I am that I am. That is the concept of I am that I am. When you reach I am that I am, you realize that that is you and you are it. So
Joan says there's an being your own absolute.
Right.
That's it.
I want to speak to that I am that I am before we
move forward and sum it all up.
So it's a concept in the Vedas where that when we are born as a soul and we fall down into physical incarnation, we say the word soham, which is I am that I am, meaning I'm coming from this, I'm a drop of this huge ocean and I'm separating, I'm coming into another ocean, but I'm still part of the ocean. Everything that I am is part of that, but I'm just going down to individualize, but I'm still part of that. So the journey of incarnation is going back and becoming one with it, union, but
without losing your individuality.
Right. But we're not strong enough from here. We have to come down and we have to go through the dark night of the soul, or many of them, to be able to be strong enough to live that union. That's a little heads up for what we're going to talk about in the next episode.
Right. So to sum it up, what we were working on, or what we are working on in illumination at this phase, is establishing a sense of presence enough to ground into and coexist in daily life. This is about taking the spiritual and bringing it into the physical and making it real, to establish our own personal boundaries and values, and boundaries based on those values and our own moral compass.
So this is the point, the goal for at the end of the illumination phase is that you got your roadmap, you understand your personal core values, but it's not something separate anymore. It's not like you're going to church or going to yoga class to have your spiritual life and then come back and have your physical life. It's all happening at the same time. It's integrated and it's grounded. And it's also not, your friends don't think that you're that weirdo spiritual person that's always like love and light and fairies and unicorns, and then they don't want to invite you anywhere because people think you're really fruity. You're just real. Yes. And you got your fairies and your unicorns, but they're not, you know what I mean?
It's the real. It's that real. So
it's the real.
Yeah, we're here to let you know that the union stage, there's more to come. Yes. Okay, so the union stage is that moment where you go beyond just the feel good of the senses and the illumination phase. So we also have Finding Your Life Purpose and Passion. That's another course that we have in Zen Ed Academy, when you're ready to bring all of these pieces together. So are you ready to be done with the dark night? Are you looking forward to your own illumination, or are you looking forward to your union? Let us know in the comments.
Where do you think you are? So it's time for your questions. I know you guys already have some dropped in there, so drop any more if you have them in the comments. If we don't get to them live, we always get back to the replay.
And while we wait for those to come in, we wanted to share what one of our Zen Heads has to say, our Zen Ed Academy members. Shout out to one of our Zen Heads, Floor. She talks about her heroic self-confidence and superpowers. She says, every day since I started, I feel like I can incorporate this in my day, from proper breathing to my heroic self-confidence and cutting the bullshit excuses. It's allowed me to process some of these emotions that I've forgotten about. It's like I gained superpowers to keep moving forward. I am my own hero and I take care of me. The biggest breakthrough. Floor, you are absolutely amazing. She's just one of our Zen heads in there that we absolutely love and adore, and we love spending time with.
So let's get on to the questions. I see a little ready for union. Yeah, aren't we all?
Yes.
So let's see. Let's head back to some of these earlier questions.
Blazing Turtle says, can children reach full illumination? How do we help them without imprinting external values or our values?
Okay, so raising we have 4 kids between us. I have 2, he has 2, and they kind of, joint family, blended family. Yep. But with my kids, they are so total opposites. So when they were born, I was really determined because I had those external values imprinted on me, and it was a very black and white culture that I was raised in religiously. And so for my kids, it was sort of to not imprint your kids with external values. And to some degree, you can't help it because you're going to teach them what you believe is right and wrong. But I think it's your responsibility as a parent to teach them what you feel is right or wrong, but then explore their potential, see who they really are,
and give them tools for expansion.
See who they. For me, it was observing from the time that they were born. Who are you? You're, it's not that nature versus nurture thing. It's who were you coming in?
Right.
How can I help you figure out what your passion is in life instead of telling you what it is?
Yes, and I think that's one of the key components is giving children the tools to question life, to question themselves, and to see how they're showing up and how they're personally responsible for their own existence and their own choices in life in the world and how that navigates through the world. So as far as can children reach full illumination, here's the thing from a brain perspective, okay? There's a part of the brain called the critical mind that does not develop until around the age of 8 to 13, regardless of how evolved this individual is. That critical mind factor of the mind accepts or rejects things based on what they get up until that point. So up until that point, they pretty much soak up everything as it is. And then at that point, they start accepting or rejecting things in the world based on the information that they already have in their head. Okay.
So that's the hypnotherapy version, which is good and solid for brain psychology. But with children that are coming to life that seem to be a lot more open and a lot more enlightened, that doesn't mean they're not going to go through their own dark night of the soul. Because with every child that comes into the world, I don't care how enlightened they are, we don't know their soul path. They may have a lot more spiritual awakening than maybe we did as growing up. Maybe their parents allowed them more freedom, but whatever is on each individual soul path to go through, they already know what that is.
And their dark night may look different than yours.
So there's no like black and white answer for how do you help children become illuminated and when can they be? Because it's everybody is at a different soul place in their soul journey as a whole. If you're a believer in reincarnation and lives, reincarnation.
But if you think about children as a whole, from social engineering and social development, you've got a child who doesn't know how to walk and they start learning how to walk. A child who doesn't know how to talk, they start learning how to talk. Eventually what happens is they get to the point where they no longer are dependent upon an individual for their food, their water, their shelter, their clothing, there's things like that. And then they go out into the world and they start to experience, oh shit, I've got to do this shit on my own. Okay. That is kind of one of the first dark nights that a child goes through is, okay, you have to go out into the world.
Oh shit, adulting is the first dark night, I think. But yeah, anyway, so I hope that answers your question because that's not an easy yes or no answer. It just depends on the child and what they're going through and what they have to learn in this lifetime.
And Flossie says, yes, I'm at this point a bit stuck, but keep thinking, what can I do with all of this? Is that what you mean? Yes, that's kind of that moment where you start realizing that you're personally responsible for your existence and how you show up into the world. And this is the point where we start to do that dance that we were talking about earlier, where you get to that point of starting to integrate and starting to become a partner with the great big source of whatever it is and however you want to call it. And then the next phase is where you start to integrate that and allow that to become one with you, where we get to the I am that I am and you become that part of the existence.
So what can you do with all of this is this is where you're exploring. Illumination process is where you're exploring your core beliefs and how those line up with your idea of what the greater picture is. And so
Q's wondering about sound. Let us know, guys, if you can still hear us and if you can still see us. Okay, let us know in the comments if you can still hear us and you can still see us. We want to know that it sounds good before we keep going.
Okay. So totally forgot what you were saying.
Yeah, that means wait and let them check sound.
Okay.
Let us know. Let us know. Sound is good. Give us a thumbs up if the sound is good. Let us know that the sound is good. If the sound is bad.
Sounds good.
All right,
it might just be on your.
All right. Yeah. So Q, if you want to refresh and see if that sound works better.
So I hope those answer your questions. If you need more,
by all means,
clarification,
drop them in the comments and we will get back to them if you need anything more on that.
If it's like a real burning question, message us directly.
Right.
And you don't want to leave in the comments if it's kind of private. Feel free to DM us. So let's move on to, I know some of you are asking about our more in-depth classes. Like we throw really in-depth stuff on our public classes, but our classes in Zen and Academy get even deeper.
So we've learned that self-growth and developing your intuition for a badass life go together like sushi and Sapporo.
So you could keep going around in circles, watching all those people doing the same thing that everybody else is doing.
Or you could jump into our brains and plug directly into all of the unique shortcuts, signature mind hacks, and emotional ninja skills that have worked for thousands of our clients step into their self-confidence, their self-love, and personal power.
So that they can trust themselves, which is that's kind of our number one thing clients come to us for. I want to be able to trust myself, to live my purpose completely. And that's why we created
all of this
super thing.
So now it's time to share the secret weapon to take your life from basic to badass in 90 seconds.
Because 90 seconds is all it takes to make a decision. Some of you guys have already decided. Some of you guys are actually Zen Ed members, which is awesome. So What are you going to do?
So here's what you need to get started.
Click the link in the description.
Sign up.
That's it.
Sign up and get instant access to all of the courses that we mentioned.
Plus more.
And access to our exclusive Facebook group where all the Zen heads hang out with us live twice a week.
So come join Zen Ed Academy. Can't even say the name Can't even say the name of my own group. Zen Ed Academy. If you're ready to take your skills to the next level and you can handle more brain juice and you don't be.
Zen Ed Academy is where we jack you into the ZRG mainframe so you can break your bad habits and build better trust in your magical awesomeness.
So this is going to work for you.
Even if you're allergic to fairy dust and just want real information without all the unicorn poop.
You know, the unicorn poop I'm talking about. Even if you've never had any real training before.
Even if you think you know all this stuff and just need a refresh.
Even if you've been misled by all those cookie baking copycats.
Even if you're a boss in a completely different niche and just want the edge.
So in Zen Ed, you get all the unique insights to blend your own self-growth and intuitive development with all the courses, past, present, and future. It's a never-ending and always growing platform.
Only if it's right for you, come join our inner circle and start living your power right now.
So all the info is down below. Let's do this. Come on in and let's play and get deep because we deep dive all the time.
This is just basic information compared to what we throw in Zen Ed Academy. If you like this video, hit that like button.
If this video helped you in any way, please share it with a friend.
If you have any questions, let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear from you.
For more badass life tips, be sure to subscribe.
And click the bell to turn notifications on.
So you're the first to know
when we drop a new video
or go live.
And we know that time is a valuable and precious resource, and the fact that you've chosen to spend that not only with us, but most importantly for yourself, leveling up your own skills, we honor and appreciate that. We want to say thank you for watching.
And we'll see you in the next video.
See you in the next video.